What if it's not about a building? What if it's not about stained glass or steeples? What if it's about just Jesus?
If you don't know anything about religion, you know this one. It's the golden rule. And everybody knows that. Savannah, you gave me the look like you don't know what I'm talking about.
I froze up. Is it
I got the whole
treat
world.
others like you want to be treated?
Yeah, that's close
Come
enough.
on.
Whew, that was some pressure.
Wow, I didn't think it'd go like that. I should have gave you a heads up.
I know. We should talk about these things beforehand because I'm going, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Oh,
It wasn't a quiz.
It was time to shine, and
Well, I
you
was
did.
thinking silence is golden.
Oh, in school, that is the golden rule. Yeah.
Ah, I preached against that this morning.
Yeah. What did you preach this morning?
Silence won't save them.
That was a good one, too.
Well, what's the golden rule?
You
Well,
just
let's just
said it.
dive into it.
I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's dive into it. So
Let's dive.
Matthew 7:12, in the red letters, this is Jesus speaking. Do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. This is the essence of all that is taught in the law and the prophets.
Man.
So I did a little bit of research on this one, and I was really surprised that a lot of religions say this differently. They say, don't do to others what you don't want done to you. It's in a negative format.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was interesting that Jesus puts it in a positive way.
Yeah, well, they had to be different because they're not Jesus.
Of course.
Can't plagiarize.
Yeah.
Well, if you really could think of that before you treated anybody in any way, that would be, it would probably blow our minds how different of a world we would be living in.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way with things that happen and things that are done to others and the way humanity just treats each other, there's no way.
All I can think about is how my little teenagers are treating me. You know? It's tough.
They treat you that way, but they don't treat other people that way. You know, how they act at home is where they're
Yeah.
comfortable and where they can act out. And that's a good thing. I think it opens them up to be good other places. But, you know, you think about when we're driving, and I've justified this before. When I don't get road rage a lot. I really don't get upset on the road. But when I do get mad, and I think about this every now and then, I think, well, yeah, but I wouldn't have done something that stupid to end up with me mad, you know?
Then you went right into
Right.
judge not that you be not judged.
Don't waste my holy on someone unholy. Not just a hat rack. I'm taking it all in.
I'm so glad you're
Well-
my brother.
Yeah, I mean, and I was going to say, well, I mean, you shouldn't even hold it to such a level with teenagers. You know, you're talking about your girls, but man, the 12 apostles weren't far from being teenagers.
That's right.
They can be cruel.
I mean, really, I was going to go there. I mean, the younger, kids are just crazy. They
Mhm.
don't think about nothing like that. Especially, wait a minute. Let me think about how I would be wanting to
Mhm.
be treated. But really, think about that. The apostles some of them were right at teenagers, maybe, early 20s.
Wow.
How irresponsible and just crazy I was at the early 20s. I couldn't imagine following Jesus and doing the things they were doing.
But I mean, I'm sure, I'm almost positive that there were times that he was like, what am I dealing with here?
Of
Mhm.
course.
Yeah, but he loved them anyways, and he was all the time. I'm sure like people like Simon was just a basket case ready to just, kill somebody as to look at him. And it's just wild to think about, this is the Son of God that we are following. These are his words.
But think about how powerful that must have been for people looking in. If he can convert and tame this age group of people that we know are irresponsible and rowdy and all of that, then he must be something special.
I think you're 100% right. And you look at it now, I mean, your normal 18-year-old out in the world, they're not handling those things. But you look at the military, what they do with 18-year-olds that they get.
Mm-hmm.
They whip them right into shape. They fall in line and they do what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of what Jesus did with these young men, is just made them his, and they worked for the big cause.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the most powerful things about it all, and I don't know if people think about this or not, but miracles. Miracles. I mean, what would have persuaded you to follow him had there not been miracles?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
These guys left everything.
He couldn't just walk up on the boat and say, "All right, this is me. I'm here. I'm the Messiah. I'm the big cheese. Let's go. Follow me." I mean,
the big cheese.
I mean, he had to do some miracles. He had to show them that there was something different about him.
Proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
The actions speak louder than words.
There you go.
Yeah. We've been fishing all night. Well, try it one more time for me. And bam, so much fish on the boat. They have to call for another boat and both boats begin to sink. Like that kind of thing. You see enough of that. Feeding the 5,000
Yeah.
with 2 fish and 5 loaves, I'll go anywhere you say. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. We know that we're looking for a Messiah, and this is him, and that's what they were doing.
And this was so different than anything else being taught. I mean, Jesus must have been a scholar at this point. I mean, the randomness to me or you or them at the time that this was, I mean, this is so different than anything they've ever been taught.
Everything you're reading in that book,
Yeah.
and everything that you could read from Genesis to Revelation is all inspired by God. Jesus, that is all in him.
Yeah.
He can tap into his mind at any moment and pull any part of that book out.
Did they talk about that anywhere?
He said in Hebrews, I came in the volume of the book.
Okay.
Take and eat it all in Revelation, he said.
Wow.
So he I wished I could put that in words. I don't even know how, but when he walked here, if you just put legs on that thing, if you just put legs on that black book, that was Jesus. Like, he was the walking Bible.
That's wild.
So it wasn't something like, oh, he was like one of us where we know a few verses or something. He knew and could recite any part of it at any moment, any given time. Just think about that. For every Pharisee that had any question to stump him up, that was impossible.
Did they have a book back then, or was it just scrolls?
That's what I was wondering.
Scrolls. They didn't have a book.
So a person couldn't just sit around and study it all night. I mean, like, you had to go somewhere to read the scrolls, right?
Yeah. David, the Bible said he meditated day and night on the law.
Wow.
So I'm sure that perhaps they had like copies.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
Or maybe not, obviously you could put it through a copy machine, but
Somebody dictated it and rewrote it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And you could study that part of the Old Testament. So they didn't have a new hardback, New Testament.
Right.
Or an Old Testament for that matter.
Well, let's keep going. Matthew 7:13. You can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad, and its gate is wide for many who choose that way. But the gateway to life is very narrow, and the road is difficult, and only a few ever find it.
Yeah, now check this out. Read it in, say, the New King James.
Are we talking about 3 different gates? 3 paths?
Check. You'll get this better on
Okay.
on this revision.
Okay.
Check this out.
All right. So New King James, Matthew 7:13. Enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. Because narrow is the gate, and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Better.
So that gives me, a positive and a negative end.
Yeah. So KJV even says, "Enter in at the straight gate." Strait,
Mm-hmm.
which is almost like a way of complexity or suffering.
Like we're talking about rivers and, the narrow strait of the
Yes.
water path.
Wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Many people are traveling on this wide way,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an easy way, and it's the way to destruction. It's the way. The Bible says there's a way that seems right to man, but the end thereof is death.
Is that where we get he's on the straight and narrow path?
Exactly.
Because
straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life, and only few there be that find it.
Mm-hmm.
So in John 10:7, Jesus said, I tell you the truth, I am the gate for the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And in John 10:9, he said, yes, I am the gate. Those who come in through me will be saved. They will come and go freely and will find good pastures.
So do we have to travel through that straight and narrow to get to that gate?
We do that by finding Jesus.
Come on.
Right.
That straight and narrow is Jesus.
He is the way, the truth, and the light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That door. Good job.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of that hat
I
rack
listen.
over
I
there.
listen. Yeah.
That door and that gate and that straight and narrow way is Jesus. It's a way of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of complexity. It's a way that is not about you and what you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about him and what he wants. And that is so difficult for us and our fleshy, lustful, desirous ways. We want everything we want, whatever we want. That's what an atheist wants.
Mm-hmm.
And that way is huge. And multitudes are traveling that path.
Mm-hmm.
But the less traveled path is the way of life, true life, the truth and the life.
But what I liked he said was it wasn't obstacles. It was still a path. It's just the only way is through him. That's the
Yes.
only path. There's not many other wider paths. It's Jesus or nothing.
Yeah, and it ain't even like going over here and finding some path. I mean, it's there's an old proverb like that says many paths up the same mountain. It's not even like a path. It's literally like it's him. It's him. When you find him, wherever you're at becomes him. You're not going over here to find some rocky road. You find Jesus, and you are instantly walking that way. You're
it's like
in it.
following in his footsteps on the beach in the sand.
Yes.
The path may look different for everyone else, but it's still the same path. You're still following in those footsteps to get where you're
Yes.
going.
Yeah, that's it.
You are. And it makes me think of that. Is it the poem that's the footsteps in the sand?
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
there's one set,
Yes.
and what happened in that one set? Why was there only one set?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, because I was carrying you at that time.
I always thought it was because he was walking in the same steps, but it's not.
And that's good. That's really what it's supposed to be if we are surrendering to God with every step.
Is that the one where he said, when life got really difficult, I looked down, there was only one set of prints,
Yes.
or paths, or footprints?
Yes. Yes. And he said that was because I was carrying you
Yeah.
in those times.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's good.
That's a really good one.
And in many ways, when we walk, alone, if we are completely surrendered to Jesus, then it's literally like Jesus. There is one set of footprints, but it's like he's stepping through us and in us. If we're doing and living the way we should be, he's doing everything through us. He's walking through us. He's talking through us. He's reaching through us. He's loving through us. He's moving through us. There's a verse that says, in him we live, we move, and we have our being through him. And I can do all things through Christ. And if you remember, we talked about before Jesus, you're dead.
Yeah.
There is no life. There is no good or evil. You're in the clutches of death because you're dead. You're everything that death represents, and death absolutely does nothing. But when you get Jesus, then not only do you come to know life, but then that's when you come to the place of decision making. And the Bible says, he that knows to do good and does not do it, or rather does bad, that in itself is sin. That's what sin is.
That's why a child, you can't say that a child is good or bad or until they know the difference between right and wrong, right?
Exactly.
You just judge their parents.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to judge.
Yeah. And
my holy can. I'm just kidding.
You're really going with that one, aren't you? He's found one he likes. Put that in my pocket for later.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
God, that was funny.
Hey, I had a revelation the other day, and it's kind of completely off topic, completely different. It does kind of go off the golden rule, though. So I was watching a movie, and at the end of the movie, the credits went through. And it went through and talked about even the guy that held the light, the guy that made a phone call. It went through everything in that movie that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And, each one of us have our own credits, whether it's every day, every week, every month, or our whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you fall on someone else's credits? Are you the villain in scene 1? Are you the nice person at scene 3? Or are you the one that held the light? Are you the one that held the groceries or carried the door, opened the door, whatever you did?
Yeah.
How do you fall on someone else's credits?
Wow. Well, Savannah is easily the star.
Of course.
I'm grip number 3.
Yeah, but when we're judging others and we're doing those things throughout the day, how do you want to fall on someone's credits? I think that's, what would Jesus do if he was in those times? What would he be in somebody's credits?
What an amazing analogy, a way to help people think about how they want to live their daily life.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say that today?
Where does he get that stuff?
It was last night, and you really just want to put it in full perspective before you talk about it. And I couldn't make it make sense to talk about it this morning, but that's what I was going to say. That's why I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
But I couldn't put it in words this morning.
Well, how would you put that in words now that you've brought it out to say, what could some credits be on a normal everyday person's life if you were going to put what could some credits be? You said like if you're thinking movies and frames and stuff, the one holding the light or whatever, but how would it be in a normal life?
Of course. Well, if you go
For
through them, if you
example.
watch them, it's got the main person in scene 1 or the enemy, the villain,
Yeah.
even the unnamed villains.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're all in there. They're all in there. The nice guy that smiled on the corner, he's in there.
I'd want to be smiling neighbor number
The
2.
guy just sitting there drinking coffee, not saying a word.
Exactly. They're all in there. And we're all in somebody's credits every day.
Yes, the big mans.
That's it.
That's incredible.
That's good, man. What was it I preached probably a couple years ago about movie frames and all that? I should have had that then.
Oh man, I didn't know about it.
Well, I'll just
We
preach
weren't connected then.
I'll just preach about it Sunday. That'll be great.
That'd be awesome.
You wouldn't believe by just anybody listening, you wouldn't believe how many sermons I get just from doing this and talking,
Yeah.
with each other and interacting and
Iron sharpens iron.
come on.
See, I
Come
can throw some stuff
on.
out
That's
too.
it. I love it.
Pick that sword up. Let's go. Man, the word of God is quick and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword.
Yes.
Man.
And it hit home the other day when we were talking about my floodlight, not to go back on that, but I said, man, the guy was a nice guy. And when I was editing it, I heard it over and over. I said, yeah, but he was a nice guy. And what'd you say back to me, Cory?
But what were you to him?
Actually, you said, but you weren't.
Well, I
So you
I
would
didn't
have
know how
been
harsh I was.
villain number 1 in his credits.
Yeah, we had the same interaction, but our credits would have been completely different of each other based on that one encounter.
So, are you going to preach Sunday?
Absolutely not. Feel free to use anything.
Come on.
It's gonna happen eventually.
Oh, I know. It's already happened in smaller ways.
No, I'm just glad to be a part of it. That's all.
What an awesome thought though. For anybody that's just maybe just didn't hear it so good, and I know they can go back. Just say that one more time. That's really an amazing thought.
Say it again so the back can hear it.
Yeah.
And I wish I could put it in better words and make it make better sense. But I was watching a movie, and at the end of the movie, I was actually reading the credits. I never do that.
Yeah.
And it went through detailing every person that did anything in that whole movie, whether it was making a phone call, holding a light, or, smiled at somebody. Like everything was detailed to the finest little thing. And I thought, man, at the end of my day, who's going to be in my credits? What happened that day?
Yeah.
Who's Cory? Who's Savannah? Who's Terry? Who's my kids? And then everyone else that I met all day, where do they fall? And then that got me thinking, where do I fall on everyone's credits that I met that day or that I saw? And that's everybody all day. What if
Wow.
you are the main character of that movie that day? What if you're in your own reality show? What happened? What'd you do? How'd you fall? How did everyone that encountered you, what was their perspective of that day? Like it just went down this whole big rabbit hole, and it got me thinking that every day is important, and how we treat people affects their credits, which affects their next day, their next week, their next month. And whether it's arguing about a floodlight or talking to somebody at church, all those things make an impact, and the impact affects their credits that day.
Well, the success of their movie.
Exactly.
Man, you should have had the music playing for that, man.
I'm so proud of you.
That's not me, Cory. That's all you, man.
No, it's not. And I want everybody to know it too. And those kind of things that he just spoke about, that literally is called revelation. That is completely a revelation, not from Stephen. There was a time in the Bible that Jesus, on the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his apostles, he said, "Who do men say that I am?" And they said, "Some say that you're a prophet. Some say that you're this. Some say that you're that." But then Jesus got really personal, and he said, "But who do you say that I am?" And the most zealous apostle, Simon at the time, but at that very moment, Jesus was about to change his name. And he said, when Jesus asked that question, he said, "Thou art the Christ. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus looked at him and he said, "Simon Bar Jonah," which means Simon, son of Jonah, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but only my Father in heaven. And that day he said, in other words, you're no longer Simon, but you are Peter. And upon this rock, Peter in Hebrew means rock. And upon this rock, upon this belief system of saying, I am the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of God, that doesn't come from flesh and blood. The revelations from the Father that don't come from this world, but it comes from God. And he said, upon that belief, upon that structure, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And that's what Stephen just got, a revelation, a message from God to give to the world. And that's the way it works. And it doesn't come from man. It doesn't come from woman. It doesn't come from the world. It comes from God. Be blessed.